My family mocked me when I entered my sister's wedding alone. She couldn't even get a date, my father yelled, before shoving me into the fountain. The guests applauded. I smiled in the water and said, "Don't forget this moment." 20 minutes later, my secret billionaire husband showed up, and they all turned pale. Can you imagine the rage, the raw, burning injustice you feel when your own father shoves you, an adult, into a fountain at your sister's wedding, all while 100 strangers laugh? That moment, dripping wet in my designer dress, was supposed to be my ultimate public humiliation. But the smile on my face, that wasn't defeat. Oh no, that was the chilling, absolute certainty that they had no idea who they were truly dealing with, or the seismic shift that was about to rock their carefully constructed world forever. Let me tell you, growing up in the affluent Campbell family of Boston was less about privilege and more about performance. Our Beacon Hill home, picture perfect on the outside, hid a different story behind its perfectly painted doors. From my earliest memories, I was Allison's shadow. My younger sister, the golden child, the star. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" That was the constant refrain, the soundtrack of my childhood, sung by my parents, Robert and Patricia Campbell. My father, a powerful corporate attorney, lived for appearances. My mother, a former beauty queen turned socialite, never missed a chance to remind me I just wasn't enough. When I brought home straight A's, Allison had A+s and led the debate team. When I won second place in a science fair, my small triumph was swallowed whole by Allison's dance recital. It was relentless, deliberate. "Meredith, stand up straight." My mother would snap at a family dinner when I was barely 12. "No one will ever take you seriously with that posture." "Allison has natural grace," she'd purr, stroking my sister's shoulder. "You have to work harder at these things." My 16th birthday dinner? I actually felt a flicker of hope that night. Maybe, just maybe, I'd be celebrated. Instead, my father raised his glass and announced Allison's acceptance into some elite Yale summer program. My birthday cake, forgotten, sat in the kitchen. College offered no escape. I worked my tail off at Boston University, maintaining a 4.0 GPA while juggling part-time jobs. My parents, they barely noticed, but they'd travel 3 states over for every single one of Allison's Juilliard performances. At my own graduation, my mother's first comment was about my sensible career choice in criminal justice. "At least you're being realistic about your prospects," she'd said with a tight, dismissive smile. Allison's arts degree, of course, was praised as following her passion. These 1,000 paper cuts, as I called them, continued into adulthood. Every family holiday was an endurance test, every accomplishment minimized, every flaw magnified until it swallowed me whole. It was during my second year at the FBI Academy in Quantico that I finally made a choice: emotional distance. I stopped sharing details. I dodged holiday invitations. I built walls around my life, higher and thicker than our family home. The ironic thing, my career was absolutely soaring. I'd found my calling in counterintelligence, ascending through the ranks with a blend of analytical brilliance and sheer, unflinching determination. By 29, I was leading specialized operations my family couldn't even dream of. And it was during one of those complex international cases that I met Nathan Reed. Not on the field, not in some shadowy alley, but at a cybersecurity conference where I was representing the bureau. Nathan wasn't just any tech entrepreneur. He'd built Reed Technologies from his college dorm room into a global security powerhouse worth billions, protecting governments and corporations. Our connection, immediate, unexpected. Here was someone who saw me, truly saw Meredith, not the distorted, broken reflection my family insisted I was. Our courtship was intense, a whirlwind between my classified operations and his global empire. "I've never met anyone like you," Nathan told me on our third date, walking along the Esplanade at midnight. "You're extraordinary, Meredith. I hope you know that." Those words, simple but sincere, were more validation than I had received in decades of family life. We married 18 months later in a private ceremony, just 2 witnesses, my closest colleague Marcus, and Nathan's sister Eliza. Keeping our marriage private wasn't just about legitimate security concerns given our work. It was my deliberate choice to keep this precious part of my life untainted by my family's toxicity. For 3 years, we built our life together, maintaining separate public identities. Nathan traveled, And my position at the FBI grew increasingly senior, culminating in my appointment as the youngest deputy director of counterintelligence operations. Which brings us back to Allison's wedding. The invitation arrived 6 months prior, in Boston gold, reeking of presumption. Allison was marrying Bradford Wellington IV, heir to a banking fortune. It was exactly the kind of excessive, performative display my parents lived for. Nathan was scheduled to be in Tokyo, closing a massive security contract. "I can reschedule," he offered, seeing my hesitation. "No," I insisted. "This is too important for Reed Tech. I'll be fine for one afternoon," he promised. "I'll try to make it back for the reception, even if it's just for the end." So, there I was, driving alone to the Fairmont Copley Plaza Hotel, my stomach tight in knots. I hadn't seen most of my family in 2 years. My sleek black Audi, one of the few luxuries I allowed myself, pulled up to the valet. I checked my reflection. Sophisticated emerald green dress, understated diamond studs, a gift from Nathan, hair in a classic updo. I looked successful, confident, untouchable. If only I felt that way inside. The Fairmont's grand ballroom was a floral wonderland. White orchids, crystal chandeliers, sunlight filtering through gossamer drapes. Pure Campbell family fantasy. I handed my invitation to the usher. He frowned. "Miss Campbell, we have you seated at table 19. Not the family table, of course." I nodded politely. Already understood. My cousin Rebecca spotted me first. Her eyes widened, then her face morphed into a practiced, brittle smile. "Meredith, what a surprise! We weren't sure you'd make it." Her gaze dropped to my empty side. "And you came alone?" "I did," I replied, offering nothing more. "How brave!" she cooed, oozing manufactured sympathy. "After what happened with that professor you were dating, what was his name?" "Mom said it was just devastating when he left you for his teaching assistant. A complete, utter fabrication. I'd never dated a professor. But this was their specialty, crafting narratives that cast me as the perpetual failure." "Your memory must be confusing me with someone else," I said calmly. More relatives swarmed, each interaction a fresh cut. Vivian commented on my practical haircut. How sensible it was for a woman in my position to give up on style. Uncle Harold asked loudly if I was still pushing papers for the government and if I'd considered a career change, since those jobs never pay enough to attract a decent husband. Tiffany, Allison's maid of honor, approached with air kisses that intentionally missed my cheeks. "Meredith, God, it's been ages. Love the dress. Is it from that discount retailer? You always were so good at finding deals." She didn't wait for an answer. "Allison was just saying she wasn't sure you'd come, you know, since you missed the bridal shower and the bachelorette and the rehearsal dinner." Each event had conflicted with critical, classified operations. I had sent generous gifts, heartfelt notes. "Work commitments," I said simply. "Right, your mysterious government job," she said, making air quotes. "Bradford's cousin works for the State Department. He says those administrative roles can be so demanding." I just smiled. Let them believe I was a glorified clerical worker. The truth would have shocked them into silence, but that revelation wasn't for their benefit. Not yet. My mother appeared, resplendent in pale blue, a gown that probably cost more than a month of my very substantial salary. "Meredith, you made it." Her tone implied I'd scaled Everest, not driven across Boston. "Your sister was concerned you wouldn't come." "I wouldn't miss Allison's wedding," I said. Her eyes performed a rapid, practiced inventory of my appearance, searching for flaws. Finding none obvious, she settled. "That color washes you out. You should have consulted me before purchasing something so bold." Before I could respond, a commotion signaled the bridal party. Allison made her entrance, now officially Mrs. Wellington, on her banker husband's arm. She was undeniably stunning in Vera Wang. My father beamed, looking at Allison like she was the sun and moon. I couldn't remember him ever looking at me that way. The maitre d' directed me back to table 19, so far from the family table I almost needed binoculars. I was seated with distant cousins twice removed, my mother's former college roommate, and several elderly relatives who couldn't place me. "Are you one of the Wellington girls?" A hard of hearing great-aunt squinted. "No, I'm Robert and Patricia's daughter," I explained. "Allison's sister." "Oh." Her face registered surprise. "I didn't know there was another daughter." That stung, even after all these years. Dinner passed in a blur of elaborate courses and flowing champagne. From my distant perch, I watched my family at the center table, laughing and celebrating, completely oblivious to my existence. The family photos, they'd been taken earlier without me. I'd arrived on time, only to be told by the photographer they'd moved up the schedule. During Tiffany's maid of honor speech, she spoke movingly about Allison, the sister I never had, pointedly ignoring my existence. The best man joked about Bradford joining the Campbell family dynasty and trading up by marrying the golden child. I maintained my composure, sipping water, needing my wits about me. Nathan had texted, landing soon. Traffic heavy. ETA 45 minutes. When the dancing began, I tried to join a circle of cousins, only for them to subtly close ranks, leaving me on the outside. I retreated to a quiet corner, checking my watch. Nathan would be here soon. Just a little longer. My mother approached, champagne flute in hand. "You could at least try to look like you're enjoying yourself," she hissed. "Your perpetual sulking is becoming a topic of conversation." "I'm not sulking, Mother. I'm simply observing." "Well, observe with a smile. The Wellingtons are important people, and your sister has made an exceptional match. Don't embarrass us, as if I were the embarrassment. The least you could have done was bring a date," she continued. "Everyone is asking why you're here alone." Again, I didn't bother explaining that my husband was worth more than the entire Wellington family fortune combined. That revelation would come. The reception was in full swing when my father tapped his crystal glass. The crowd quieted as he took center stage beside an ice sculpture of intertwined swans. "Today," he began, his voice booming with practice projection, "is the proudest day of my life. My beautiful Allison has made a match that exceeds even a father's highest hopes." A smattering of laughter. "Bradford," he continued, turning to my new brother-in-law, "you're gaining not just a wife, but entrance into a family built on excellence and achievement." He raised his glass higher. "To Allison, who has never disappointed us. From her first steps to her graduation from Juilliard with highest honors to her charitable foundation work, she has been nothing but a source of pride." My chest tightened, not because I expected a mention, I knew better, but because of the implicit comparison. Allison had never disappointed them. The unspoken conclusion was deafeningly clear. As he continued extolling Allison's virtues, I quietly slipped away toward the terrace doors. I needed air, space, a moment to regroup before Nathan arrived. The evening sun was setting over the hotel's famous courtyard fountain, casting a golden glow on the rippling water. I had almost reached that sanctuary when my father's voice boomed from behind me. "Leaving so soon, Meredith?" I turned slowly. He stood 10 feet away, microphone still in hand. The entire reception was looking in our direction. My mother and Allison flanked him, identical expressions of disapproval on their perfect faces. "Just getting some air," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "Running away, more like it," he said, and the microphone amplified his words for all to hear. Classic Meredith. Disappearing when family obligations become inconvenient. A flush of scorching heat crawled up my neck. "That's not true, isn't it?" His voice took on the cross-examination tone I remembered from my terrifying childhood. "You've missed half the wedding events. You arrived alone, without even the courtesy of bringing a +1. The room had gone completely silent. "I'm sorry if my attendance alone offended you," I said carefully. "She couldn't even find a date," my father announced to the room. Scattered, nervous laughter followed. 32 years old, and not a prospect in sight. "Meanwhile, your sister has secured one of Boston's most eligible bachelors." The laughter grew louder, encouraged by his showmanship. "Dad," I said quietly, "this isn't the time or place." "It's exactly the time and place," he retorted, advancing toward me. "This is a celebration of success, of family achievement, something you would know nothing about." Each word was a calculated barb, designed to pierce years of carefully constructed armor. I glanced at my mother and sister, desperately searching for any sign of intervention. They simply watched, my mother with a tight smile, Allison with barely concealed satisfaction. "You think we don't know why you're really alone? Why you hide behind that mysterious government job?" my father continued. "You've always been jealous of your sister's accomplishments. Always the disappointment, always the failure." He was inches from me now, the microphone lowered, but his voice still carrying in the hushed room. Decades of resentment had twisted his face into something almost unrecognizable. "Dad, please stop," I whispered, acutely aware of hundreds of eyes on us. "Stop what?" "Telling the truth. The truth that you've never measured up, that you're an embarrassment to the Campbell name." His voice rose with each question. Something inside me snapped. Not toward anger, no. It was a strange, serene, terrifying clarity. "You have no idea who I am," I said quietly. "I know exactly who you are," he snarled. And then it happened. His hands connected with my shoulders, a forceful shove that caught me completely off guard. I stumbled backward, arms windmilling, but there was nothing to grab. For a suspended moment, I felt weightlessness, then the shocking, icy cold as I plunged backward into the courtyard fountain. Water engulfed me. My carefully styled hair collapsed. My silk dress billowed, then clung, and my makeup surely ran in rivulets down my face. The physical shock was nothing compared to the realization that my own father had just publicly humiliated me at my sister's wedding. The crowd's reaction came in waves. First, shocked gasps, then uncertain titters. Finally, it erupted into full-throated laughter and even scattered applause. Someone wolf whistled. Another voice called out, "Wet t-shirt contest after the garter toss." More laughter, more applause. I pushed myself up, water streaming from my ruined dress. My heels slipped on the fountain's slick bottom as I found my footing. Through dripping strands of hair I saw it all. My father's triumphant expression, my mother's hand covering a smile, my sister's undisguised glee. The photographer snapped picture after picture, capturing my humiliation for posterity. This would be in the wedding album, passed around at future family gatherings. Another chapter in the Meredith the Failure narrative. But something unexpected happened in that fountain. As the cold water shocked my system, so too did a realization. I was done. Absolutely done. Done seeking approval. Done accepting mistreatment. Done hiding who I really was. I stood fully upright in the fountain, water cascading from my dress. I pushed back my soaked hair and looked directly at my father. "Remember this moment," I said, my voice carrying across the suddenly silent courtyard. Not shouting, not emotional, just chillingly clear and precise. The smile froze on his face. Something in my tone must have registered, because uncertainty flickered in his eyes. "Remember exactly how you treated me," I continued, stepping carefully toward the fountain's edge. "Remember the choices you made. Remember what you did to your daughter, because I promise you I will." I climbed out of the fountain with as much dignity as my soaked condition allowed. A stunned silence had replaced the laughter. Even my father seemed momentarily at a loss for words. The memory of a similar public humiliation flashed through my mind. High school graduation, when my father had interrupted my valedictorian speech to loudly comment that memorization had always been Meredith's only talent. The audience had laughed then, too. And I had shrunk into myself, becoming smaller. Not this time. I walked through the crowd, water dripping with each step, creating a trail across the expensive carpet. No one stopped me. No one offered help. No one spoke. And strangely, I was okay with that. For the first time in my life, I didn't need anything from these people. The ladies' room of the Fairmont was blessedly empty. When I pushed through the door, I caught sight of myself in the gold-framed mirror, mascara streaked, hair plastered, the emerald dress now a darker, sodden forest green. And yet, I didn't feel defeated. I felt oddly, powerfully liberated. My phone had been in my clutch, thankfully left at table 19 before my impromptu dive. I retrieved it from a concerned-looking, distant cousin who guarded it, then returned to the bathroom to text Nathan. "How close are you?" His response was immediate. 20 minutes out. Traffic clearing. "Everything okay?" I hesitated, then typed, "Dad, push me into the fountain in front of everyone." 3 dots appeared instantly, disappeared, reappeared. Finally, "I'm coming." 10 minutes. Security team already at perimeter. I hadn't known he'd sent a security team ahead. That was Nathan. Always thinking 10 steps ahead, always protecting what mattered to him. And somehow, incredibly, I mattered to him. The bathroom door swung open, and a young woman entered. One of Bradford's cousins, I thought. She stopped short. "Oh, are you okay?" "I'm fine," I replied, straightening my spine. "Just a little wet." She hovered uncertainly. "Everyone's talking about what happened. It was really awful of your dad." Her unexpected kindness nearly broke my composure. "Thank you for saying that. I have a spare dress in my car," she offered. "It might be a little big, but—" "That's incredibly kind, but I have a change of clothes in my car. Professional habit. Always have backup options. Could you walk with me to the valet? I'd rather not wade through the crowd alone." "Of course," she said. "I'm Emma, by the way. Bradford's step-cousin from his mom's second marriage. Basically the Wellington family outlier." "Meredith," I replied, offering my dripping hand. "Campbell family scapegoat. Pleasure to meet you." She laughed, and somehow that small moment of connection steadied me. Emma ran interference as we made our way through a side exit to the valet stand. I retrieved my backup outfit from the Audi's trunk, a simple black sheath dress, and flats I kept for emergencies. 10 minutes in a nearby restroom, and I'd managed to transform myself from drowned rat to reasonably presentable professional. As I applied fresh makeup, I thought about my life, my real life, not the distorted version my family perceived. I had graduated top of my class at Quantico. I had led operations that saved American lives. I had earned the respect of hardened field agents and Washington officials alike. I had married a brilliant, kind man who valued me exactly as I was. None of that validation had come from the people currently celebrating in that ballroom. And maybe that was the point. Maybe true worth is only found outside the funhouse mirrors of toxic family dynamics. I checked my watch. Nathan would arrive any minute. For the first time, I was ready to stop hiding our relationship. Not because I needed my family to be impressed, that ship had sailed into the fountain with me, but because I was tired of diminishing myself to make them comfortable. My phone vibrated with a text from Nathan. In position. I took a deep breath, smoothed my replacement dress, and walked back toward the reception with my head high, shoulders back. Emma had returned to her table, but she gave me an encouraging thumbs up as I passed. The festivities had resumed in my absence. The dance floor was crowded, the bar busy, the cake waiting to be cut. No one noticed me immediately, which allowed me to position myself strategically near the main entrance. I spotted my mother first, holding court with several socialite friends, gesturing animatedly. As I drew closer, her words became sickeningly clear. "Always been difficult. We've tried everything with her. Absolutely everything. The best schools, the best therapists. Some people simply refuse to thrive. Such a shame," one friend agreed. "Especially with Allison being so successful. Same parents, same opportunities. Genetics are mysterious." My mother sighed theatrically. "Robert and I have accepted that Meredith will never." She trailed off as she noticed me standing there, clearly not still hiding in the bathroom as she'd assumed. "Meredith," she recovered quickly. "You look dry." "Yes, Mother. I always keep a spare outfit handy, one of many professional habits." Her friends murmured uncomfortable greetings before finding urgent reasons to refresh their drinks. Was humiliating me part of the wedding itinerary, or did Dad improvise that part? I asked quietly. "Don't be dramatic," she hissed. "You were trying to slink away as usual. Your father simply lost patience with your antisocial behavior. Pushing your adult daughter into a fountain is not a normal response to perceived antisocial behavior. Perhaps if you had brought a date, made any effort at all to participate in your sister's happiness instead of making everything about your mysterious job and your perpetually busy schedule, things would have gone differently." I studied my mother's face, searching for any sign of the protective instinct that should have been there. There was nothing but annoyance that I had disrupted her narrative. "You know what's interesting, Mother?" I said. "I've never once made anything about me. In fact, I've spent my entire life trying to take up as little space as possible in this family, and it still wasn't enough." A commotion at the entrance caught everyone's attention. The distinct sound of multiple car doors closing in rapid succession. The appearance of 2 men in impeccable suits conducting a subtle security sweep. My mother frowned. "What's happening?" "If the Wellingtons arranged additional security without consulting us." "Right on time," I murmured, checking my watch. The sleek black Maybach had arrived, followed by 2 equally impressive security vehicles. The wedding guests had noticed now. Conversations paused. Even the music seemed to quiet. My heart quickened despite my outward calm. After 3 years of marriage, Nathan still had that effect on me. And in approximately 60 seconds, my family would finally meet my husband. The double doors to the ballroom swung open with authority. Two security personnel entered first, Marcus and Dimitri. I recognized, their alert eyes scanning the room with professional efficiency. They wore impeccable suits that couldn't quite disguise their military bearing. Whispers rippled. My father approached them with an affronted expression. "Excuse me," he began, puffing up his chest. "This is a private event. If you're looking for the corporate conference, it's in the West Wing." Marcus simply looked through him as if he were transparent. Dimitri touched his earpiece and spoke quietly. "Perimeter secure." Proceeding. And then Nathan walked in. My husband had always had a commanding presence, but today he seemed to fill the entire doorway. 6'2", with shoulders broadened by years of swimming. He wore a custom Tom Ford suit that subtly screamed wealth and power. His dark hair was slightly windblown. He'd probably come straight from the helicopter pad on the roof, and his jawline could have cut glass. But it was his eyes that always undid me. Intensely blue and laser-focused. They scanned the room in seconds before landing directly on me. The moment they did, his serious expression softened into the private smile reserved only for me. He moved through the crowd with the confidence of someone who never questioned his right to be anywhere. People instinctively stepped aside, creating a path directly to where I stood. I was vaguely aware of my mother beside me, her body going rigid as she realized this imposing man was heading straight for us. Behind him, 4 more security personnel had entered, positioning themselves strategically around the perimeter of the ballroom. "Meredith," Nathan said when he reached me, his voice a warm bass that carried in the now hushed room. He took my hands in his thumbs brushing over my knuckles in our private gesture of connection. "Sorry I'm late." "You're right on time," I replied, feeling truly steady for the first time that day. He leaned down and kissed me, not a showy display, but a genuine greeting between partners. His hand moved protectively to the small of my back as he turned to face my mother. "Mrs. Campbell," he said, with perfect politeness that somehow still conveyed zero warmth. "I'm Nathan Reed, Meredith's husband." My mother's face went through a spectacular series of expressions: confusion, disbelief, calculation, and finally a strained attempt at delight. "Husband," she repeated, her voice unnaturally high. "But Meredith never mentioned." 3 years next month, Nathan supplied smoothly. "We keep our private life private, for security reasons." My father had pushed his way through the onlookers and arrived at my mother's side, his face flushed with either anger or embarrassment, possibly both. "What's the meaning of this?" he demanded, looking from me to Nathan. "Some kind of prank? Hiring security and an actor to create a scene at your sister's wedding is a new low, Meredith." Nathan's expression hardened, almost imperceptibly. Only someone who knew him, as well as I did, would notice the dangerous glint in his eyes. "Mr. Campbell," he said, his tone deceptively mild. "I'm Nathan Reed, CEO of Reed Technologies. Your daughter and I have been married for nearly 3 years." My father's mouth opened and closed without sound. Reed Technologies was a household name, a global security firm worth billions. Even my technology-averse father would recognize it. "That's not possible," he finally managed. "We would have known." "Would you?" Nathan asked, genuine curiosity in his voice. "When have you ever shown interest in Meredith's actual life? From what I've observed today, and what she's shared over the years, your interest extends only to criticizing her choices, not understanding them." My sister had appeared now, her white gown making her look like an apparition floating through the stunned guests. Bradford followed in her wake, his expression a mix of confusion and fascination. "What's happening?" Allison demanded. "Who are these people?" "Apparently," my mother said faintly, "your sister has a husband." "That's ridiculous," Allison scoffed. "She's making it up for attention." "On my wedding day." Nathan's arm tightened around my waist. Not possessively, but supportively. "Mrs. Wellington, congratulations on your marriage. I apologize for missing the ceremony. International business obligations kept me in Tokyo until a few hours ago." His impeccable manners made Allison's rudeness stand out in stark relief. She flushed, looking uncertainly between Nathan, the security team, and the increasingly interested wedding guests. "Is this some kind of joke?" My father found his voice again. "You expect us to believe that Meredith, our Meredith, secretly married a billionaire tech CEO," supplied one of Bradford's friends from the back, who had apparently Googled Nathan on his phone. "Holy!" That's really Nathan Reed. Forbes cover last month. Net worth estimated at $12 billion. A collective gasp rippled through the room. My mother swayed slightly, reaching for the back of a chair to steady herself. I don't understand, she whispered. Why wouldn't you tell us? For the first time, her question seemed genuine rather than accusatory. I almost felt sorry for her. When have you ever wanted to hear about my successes, Mother? I asked gently. When have you ever celebrated anything about me? She had no answer. As for me, Nathan continued smoothly, I've been looking forward to meeting the family Meredith has described so vividly. Though I admit, after witnessing your behavior today, I find myself rather... He paused, selecting his words carefully, disappointed. My father's face darkened. Now listen here, young man. No, Mr. Campbell, Nathan interrupted, his voice suddenly hard as steel. You listen. I watched from the terrace as you publicly humiliated your daughter. I saw you push her into that fountain. I heard the things you said to her. The blood drained from my father's face. Under normal circumstances, Nathan continued, such an assault would have immediate consequences. My security team was prepared to intervene, but Meredith signaled them to stand down. That's the kind of person your daughter is. Even after your despicable behavior, she didn't want to create a scene at her sister's wedding. The room had gone completely silent. Even the wait staff had frozen in place. Fortunately for you, Nathan finished, my wife is a better person than I am, because if anyone ever treated her that way again, my response would not be nearly so measured. The threat, though delivered in the most civilized tone possible, hung in the air like storm clouds. At that precise moment, as if choreographed for maximum dramatic effect, the ballroom doors opened once more. Two individuals in crisp business attire entered, their posture alerting me immediately to their identities even before I saw their faces. Marcus and Sophia, my most trusted team members from the Bureau. They approached with purposeful strides, coming to a stop a respectful distance from where Nathan and I stood with my family. Director Campbell, Sophia said formally, using my official title. I apologize for the interruption, but there's a situation requiring your immediate attention. The title hung in the air for a beat before the whisper started. Director? Did she say Director Campbell? What department? My father's confusion was almost comical. Director of what? Some minor government office. Nathan's smile was razor-sharp. Your daughter is the youngest deputy director of counterintelligence operations in FBI history, Mr. Campbell. Her work has saved countless American lives and earned her the highest security clearance possible. More gasps, more whispers. My mother looked as though she might faint. Allison stepped forward, her bridal glow diminished by confusion and dawning horror. That's impossible. Meredith is just what, Allison? I asked quietly. Just your disappointing older sister? Just a family scapegoat? Just a perpetual failure? She had no answer. The Meredith Campbell I know, Nathan said, his voice carrying easily through the silent room, is brilliant, courageous, and formidable. She has the respect of hardened field agents and government officials alike. She makes decisions daily that affect national security. He turned to look directly at my father. And for some inexplicable reason, she still cared enough about your approval to attend this wedding. Despite knowing exactly how you would treat her, my father seemed to have aged 10 years in the last 5 minutes. The confident, bullying attorney had vanished, replaced by a confused old man trying to reconcile his lifelong narrative with a shattering new reality. Why didn't you tell us? He asked, his voice smaller than I'd ever heard it. Would you have believed me? I replied simply. Or would you have found a way to diminish this too? His silence was answer enough. Marcus approached, holding a secure tablet. Director, I hate to press, but we need your authorization on this operation. I took the tablet, scanned the information, and made a quick decision. Proceed with option 2, but increase surveillance on the secondary target. I'll call in for the full briefing in 20 minutes. Yes, ma'am, Marcus replied, accepting the tablet back. The professional exchange happened in seconds, but its impact on the room was seismic. This wasn't play acting. This wasn't an elaborate ruse. This was real power, real responsibility, and I wielded it with casual confidence. Nathan checked his watch. We should go. The helicopter is waiting, and we have the Tokyo team on standby for the video conference at 9 o'clock. I nodded, then turned to face my stunned family one last time. Congratulations on your wedding, Allison. I wish you and Bradford every happiness. My sister seemed incapable of speech. Bradford, to his credit, stepped forward and offered his hand to Nathan. It was an honor to meet you, Mr. Reed. And you, Director Campbell. I hope we'll have the opportunity to get to know each other better in the future. His sincerity was unexpected and rather touching. I shook his hand warmly. I'd like that, Bradford. My parents remained frozen. Decades of their carefully constructed narrative lay in shambles around them. Mr. and Mrs. Campbell, Nathan said with perfect courtesy, thank you for the invitation. I apologize again for missing the ceremony. My father finally found his voice. Meredith, wait. We need to talk about this. We're your parents. We've always wanted what's best for you. We've always been proud of you. The naked attempt to rewrite history might have worked in the past. Not today. No, Dad. I said gently. You haven't. But that's okay. I don't need you to be proud of me anymore. And with that, Nathan and I turned and walked out of the ballroom, my security team falling into formation around us. Behind us, the whispers had erupted into full-voiced exclamations. The Campbell family would never be the same, and neither would I. The sleek black helicopter waited on the Fairmont's rooftop helipad, its blades already beginning their lazy rotation. As we approached, flanked by security, I felt a curious lightness. Decades of family baggage seemed to have fallen away, left behind in that ballroom along with my parents' shattered illusions. Are you okay? Nathan asked, his mouth close to my ear to be heard over the increasing rotor noise. Surprisingly, yes, I replied. Better than okay. Before we could board, Sophia approached with a concerned expression. Director, there's been a development. The ambassador is requesting your presence at the embassy immediately. The surveillance package picked up anomalous signals. I exchanged a look with Nathan. This wasn't part of the evening script. Real or performance art? I asked quietly. Unfortunately real, she responded. Marcus is already coordinating with the field team. Time sensitive. I nodded, switching fully into professional mode. Reroute the helicopter to the embassy. Alert the duty analyst team. I want a full brief upon arrival. Already done, Sophia confirmed. Nathan touched my arm. Go. I'll meet you there. This seamless adjustment to crisis was the rhythm of our marriage. Two high-powered careers occasionally colliding with personal plans. The difference was we supported, rather than resented, each other's responsibilities. As we turned back toward the roof access door, planning to descend and exit through the hotel's private security entrance, we found our path blocked. My mother stood there, slightly breathless from having apparently rushed up several flights of stairs. Her perfect coiffure had wilted slightly, and her immaculate makeup couldn't hide her pallor. Meredith, she said, her voice unusually uncertain. You can't just leave like this. We need to talk. I glanced at Sophia, who nodded discreetly, and stepped back to give us a moment of privacy. I have a work emergency, Mother. National security doesn't wait for family reconciliations. National security, she repeated, as if tasting the words for the first time. You really are what they said? A director at the FBI, Deputy Director of Counterintelligence Operations. I confirmed. For the past 18 months. Before that, I was assistant director for 3 years. She seemed to be struggling to integrate this information with her long-held image of me. But why the secrecy? Why not tell us? We would have been proud. I finished for her. Would you? Or would you have found a way to minimize it? Compare it unfavorably to Allison's achievements. Suggest I got the position through connections rather than merit. Her flinch told me I'd hit the mark. And the marriage, she pressed. 3 years, he said. 3 years. And you never thought to mention you had married one of the wealthiest men in the country. I noticed her emphasis on Nathan's wealth rather than any of his other remarkable qualities. Even now, status was her primary concern. Our marriage is private for multiple reasons, I explained patiently. Nathan's position makes him a potential target. My position involves classified work. And frankly, I wanted something in my life that wasn't subject to the Campbell family critique. The helicopter pilot signaled that we needed to depart. Time was running short. I have to go, I said. There's a legitimate national security situation developing. Will you come back? She asked. And for the first time in my adult life, I heard genuine uncertainty in her voice. To talk, to let us get to know you? The question surprised me. I studied her face, looking for the manipulative mother I'd known all my life. Instead, I saw confusion, hurt, and perhaps a dawning realization of all she'd missed. I don't know, I answered honestly. That depends on whether you're interested in knowing the real me or just the successful version that now meets with your approval. She had no immediate response to that. Think about it, I suggested. Really think about whether you want a relationship based on who I actually am, rather than who you always wished I would be. I turned to go, but her voice stopped me once more. Your father would never admit it, she said quietly. But he was wrong today. What he did was unforgivable. It wasn't quite an apology, but it was more acknowledgement than I'd ever received. Thank you for saying that, I replied. I need to go. As Nathan and I boarded the helicopter, I glanced back to see my mother still standing there, a diminished figure against the vastness of the Boston skyline. For the first time, I saw her not as the intimidating matriarch of my childhood, but as a woman who had constructed her entire identity around appearances and social standing, and who was now facing the collapse of her carefully maintained illusions. I felt an unexpected pang of something like compassion. The embassy situation turned out to be legitimate but manageable, encrypted communications suggesting a potential security breach that my team efficiently contained within 2 hours. By 11 p.m., Nathan and I were finally alone in our penthouse overlooking the Charles River. Some wedding, he remarked, loosening his tie as we stood on the terrace. The city lights reflected off the water, creating a tapestry of glimmering patterns. Not quite how I planned to introduce you to the family, I admitted, slipping off my shoes. I thought it went rather well, actually, he said with a slight smile. The look on your father's face when Marcus called you director was worth the price of admission. I laughed despite myself. That was rather satisfying. Your mother followed you to the roof, he noted. That seems significant. I'm not sure what it means yet, I said. Honestly, 32 years of patterns don't change in an afternoon. No, he agreed. But revelations can sometimes create openings for change. He pulled me gently into his arms. Whatever you decide about your family, I'm with you. If you want to explore reconciliation, I'll support that. If you want to maintain distance, I'll support that too. This was what real love felt like. Not the conditional approval I'd sought from my family for decades, but unconditional support regardless of my choices. Did you see Bradford's face when he realized who you were? I asked, changing the subject. I think he was mentally calculating how to get you to invest in his hedge fund. Nathan laughed. He seemed like the only decent one in the bunch, recognized your title immediately, and showed appropriate respect. I noticed that too, I admitted. Maybe Allison made a better choice than I gave her credit for. My phone buzzed with an incoming text. I expected it to be work-related, but instead saw my cousin Emma's name. OMG, the family is in complete meltdown after you left. Your dad keeps saying there must be a mistake. Your mom is weirdly quiet. Allison has locked herself in the bridal suite. Also, I googled your husband and holy crap. Also, I'm sorry they treated you like garbage all these years. Drink sometime. Signed, your new favorite cousin. I showed the message to Nathan, who raised an eyebrow. New favorite cousin? She was kind to me after the fountain incident, I explained. Before you arrived. Offered me a spare dress. Helped me avoid the crowd. Small kindness, but it stood out. Sometimes the lies come from unexpected places, he observed. Over the next hour, my phone lit up with messages from family members who had never bothered to call me before. Distant relatives suddenly remembered my birthday. Second cousins inquired about lunch dates. My father sent a stiffly formal text stating that we should discuss recent developments at your earliest convenience. I silenced the phone and set it aside. Those responses could wait. They're not reaching out to me, I told Nathan as we prepared for bed. They're reaching out to Director Campbell, wife of billionaire Nathan Reed. Not to the person I actually am. Does that surprise you? He asked gently. No, I admitted, but it does clarify things. As I drifted toward sleep in the safety of our home, I realized that the day's events hadn't given me a family. I'd had one all along. Nathan, my trusted team at the bureau, friends who valued me for myself, the family I'd chosen rather than the one I was born into. And that, I was discovering, made all the difference. 3 weeks after my sister's wedding, Nathan and I sat in our favorite corner of Thinking Cup Cafe on Newberry Street. Despite our combined net worth and status, we enjoyed these small moments of normalcy, good coffee, quiet conversation, and people watching in a place where we weren't immediately recognized. "Your mother called again yesterday," Nathan mentioned, stirring his Americano. "That's the third time this week." I nodded, watching pedestrians hurry past the window. The Boston fall had painted the trees along Commonwealth Avenue in brilliant reds and golds. She left another voicemail. "Invited us to Sunday dinner. Are you considering it?" His tone was neutral, offering neither encouragement nor discouragement. "I'm not sure," I admitted. "Part of me thinks it's just damage control." The Campbell family image had indeed taken quite a hit when word got around about what happened at the wedding. My father's law firm partners had expressed concern about his judgment. My mother had been quietly removed from the chairperson position of her beloved charity board. Apparently, publicly humiliating your FBI director daughter and alienating your billionaire son-in-law was bad for business and social standing. "And the other part?" Nathan prompted. I sighed, tracing the rim of my mug. "The other part wonders if this might be the first genuine interest they've ever shown in knowing me, the real me, not their projection." The weeks following the wedding had brought an avalanche of family communication, emails, texts, calls, even handwritten letters. My father's alternated between defensive justifications and awkward attempts at reconciliation. My mother's were more directly apologetic, though still threaded with hints that I should have told them about my important position sooner. Allison had sent a single text from her honeymoon, "We need to talk when I'm back." Nothing more. The most surprising development had been my growing friendship with Emma, Bradford's step-cousin. True to her word, we'd met for drinks, where she confessed to always feeling like an outsider in the Wellington family, a sentiment I understood all too well. Her genuine interest in my work, what I could share of it, and her complete lack of agenda was refreshing. "I've been thinking about something Dr. Chun said in therapy last week," I told Nathan, referring to the counselor I'd started seeing to process my family dynamics, about how setting boundaries isn't about punishing others, but protecting yourself. Nathan nodded. "I like that distinction. I think I can have some form of relationship with my family," I continued, working through my thoughts aloud. "But it needs to be on new terms. No more diminishing, no more comparisons, no more accepting disrespect to keep the peace." "That sounds healthy," Nathan agreed. "And if they can't meet those terms," I said simply, "then I continue building my life with the people who can. You, my friends, my colleagues, the family I've chosen." My phone buzzed with an incoming call. Marcus, my second-in-command at the bureau. I answered immediately. "We've got movement on the Richardson case," he said without preamble. Surveillance picked up a meeting at the specified location. "Team is in position. I'll be there in 20, I replied, already gathering my things. Nathan was doing the same, accustomed to our interruptions. "Need a ride?" he asked as we stepped onto the busy sidewalk. "My meeting at MIT isn't for another hour." "Thanks, but I've got the bureau car today." I nodded toward the black SUV parked discreetly down the block where my security detail waited. He kissed me goodbye, and we headed in opposite directions, him toward his innovative tech empire, me toward the delicate work of protecting national security, each supporting the other's mission without resentment or competition. That evening, after a successful operation that resulted in the capture of a significant counterintelligence target, I made a decision. I called my mother. "Sunday dinner," I said when she answered. "Nathan and I will come, but we need to establish some ground rules first." Her immediate agreement was telling. The old Patricia Campbell would have bristled at conditions. This new version, humbled by revelations and consequences, was at least willing to listen. The dinner itself was predictably awkward. My father vacillated between defensive posturing and clumsy attempts at showing interest in my career. My mother tried too hard, nervously over-explaining the provenance of every dish, as if hosting foreign dignitaries. Allison and Bradford arrived late, their dynamic interesting to observe. He seemed genuinely pleased to see Nathan and me, while she maintained a careful distance, still processing her displacement from the family spotlight. But there were moments, brief, tentative moments of something like genuine connection. My father asked thoughtful questions about a recent cybersecurity initiative Nathan's company had implemented for government agencies. My mother produced a box of my childhood achievements she'd apparently kept all these years: debate trophies, academic awards, science competition medals. Evidence that perhaps she'd noticed more than she'd ever acknowledged. Most surprising was Allison's request to speak privately after dinner. In the garden where we'd played as children, my sister struggled visibly with words that didn't come easily to her. "I didn't know," she said finally, "about your job, your husband, your life. You never asked." I pointed out, not unkindly. "I know." She twisted her wedding ring nervously. I think I liked being the favorite. It was easier not to question it." Her honesty was unexpected. "Bradford says I need to examine why I felt threatened by your success," she continued. "Even before I knew about all this," she gestured vaguely, encompassing my career, marriage, and status. "He thinks we could both benefit from family therapy." I studied my sister, really looked at her, perhaps for the first time in years. Behind the perfect exterior, I glimpsed uncertainty, insecurity even. The golden child role came with its own burdens, its own impossible expectations. "I'd consider that," I said carefully. "Not immediately, but eventually." It wasn't forgiveness exactly, but it was an opening. A small crack in the fortress walls I'd built around my heart where family was concerned. The months that followed brought slow, imperfect progress. Weekly family dinners gradually became less strained. My parents learned to respect the boundaries I established. My father attended anger management therapy, reluctantly at first, then with growing self-awareness. My mother and I began tentative mother-daughter outings that sometimes ended in tension, sometimes in genuine laughter. Healing wasn't linear. There were setbacks, moments when old patterns reasserted themselves, when my father's temper flared or my mother's criticism surfaced. But there was also an accountability that had never existed before. A willingness to acknowledge harm and attempt repair. The most profound change, however, wasn't in my family, but in myself. I no longer measured my worth by their approval. I no longer diminished my achievements to make others comfortable. I no longer accepted disrespect as the price of belonging. 1 year after that infamous wedding, Nathan and I hosted a gathering at our home. Not just immediate family, but the people who had formed my support system throughout the years. My FBI colleagues, Nathan's sister and her family, friends who had stood by me, Emma and her new boyfriend, even a few extended family members who had reached out with genuine interest and connection. As I looked around at this diverse group, this chosen family interspersed with biological relations, I realized something profound. Family isn't just about shared DNA. It's about who shows up, who sees you clearly and loves you anyway, who celebrates your successes without jealousy and supports you through failures without judgment. Sometimes those people share your bloodline. Often they don't. The magic happens when you stop forcing connections where they don't naturally exist and instead nurture the ones that bring mutual joy and growth. Standing in our kitchen, preparing to bring out dessert, I felt Nathan's arms encircle me from behind. "Happy?" he asked simply. I leaned into his embrace, watching through the doorway as my father engaged in animated conversation with Marcus about fishing techniques, while my mother showed Emma photos on her phone. And Allison's musical laugh rang out at something Bradford had said. Not perfect, still complicated, but real in a way it had never been before. "Yes," I answered truthfully. "I am. If you're watching this and have struggled with toxic family dynamics, I want you to know that your worth isn't determined by those who fail to see it. Building boundaries isn't selfish, it's necessary for healing. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to create distance until genuine change occurs." Have you experienced family relationships healing after setting firm boundaries? Or have you found peace by creating your chosen family instead? Tell me what you think. I really want to know. Share your stories in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what another viewer needs to hear today. Don't forget to like and subscribe if this resonated with you. And thank you for being part of a supportive community where we can share our journeys of healing and growth together.